government arrangement with the United States of America to accept some deportees from the U.S. In the last few months, a number of people have been deported to Ghana, and some have gone ahead to go back to their countries, like Nigeria, etc. But the confusion or the controversy really is that Parliament doesn't know about this. Parliament has not seen the agreement between Ghana and the U.S., and the law really is that anytime the state engages in an international agreement, Parliament must see it, ratify it, possibly pass a resolution on it, etc. But that hasn't been done in this case. The Foreign Affairs Minister, Okudzeto Ablakwa, says that they are the MOU stage, and that on the advice of the Attorney General, this is not an agreement, and so that doesn't bring in the issue of Parliament at all. The matter of ratification or taking the matter to Parliament, the agreement to Parliament doesn't arise. Parliament, minority especially, say no. They have to see it. Now, just when the matters were dying down, Okudzeto Ablakwa, Foreign Minister's defense of this was that people come to Ghana anyway, porous borders, our West African brothers come to Ghana anyway. So if they have gone in search of greener pastures like what some of our compatriots do, and they use illegal means to get there, and the U.S. is deporting them, why shouldn't we accept them? In any case, they are just like us. They are not criminals. But Ghana will not accept criminals. So West African brothers, Pan-African spirit, empathy, etc. So that appeared to have done it. And just when we thought that was it, there was a news item on Western websites that an El Salvadorian gentleman by the name of Abrigo Garcia, who is been going through some trials in his country and even in the U.S., was to be deported to Ghana. And Ablakwa Okudzeto, the Foreign Affairs Minister, came out vehemently on Facebook to refute the claim and said there was no such arrangement between Ghana and the U.S. And the U.S. and Ghana was not going to accept Abrigo Garcia. This has brought back the question that what really is in the agreement? What did Ghana agree with the U.S. to do? You know, so that's the matter we're discussing for the next few minutes, and then we'll see if we have time to deal with some other thing, MPP balloting and Communal Japan's 4 million matter and all of that. But for now, this is the matter. Let me start off with Richard Kumado. Richard, we've not seen the agreement. I don't know if you have seen it or you know what is in there, the MOU. Normally, in things like this, what are the likely trade-offs that may happen? People have cited the recent visa restrictions and the revocation, etc., as one of the key things that made Ghana agree to the terms. We know Trump, very transactional in how he does these things. What possibly do you think could be in this agreement?
Okay, so before the MOU or the agreement to be signed with the U.S., you will want to have your Attorney General involved because of the geopolitical issues and because of the international legal requirements to be met. Then secondly, you want to have your foreign minister making the point for some of the lines that are going to find themselves into the agreement because of diplomacy and because of how nations are dependent on one another and the need-based approach we bring to government. Then, of course, the next person you want to have at the table will be the Minister of Interior. And that deals with the backgrounds of the people who will be coming to this country in terms of the risk assessment, the crime aspect of it, and the national sovereignty. I want to believe that these three people have sat on the table and they have agreed for whatever find themselves into the MO did. And to that regard, where there are discrepancies or there are excesses, because we are a sovereign nation, we have the ability to take a decision in the best interest of Ghana. But what will be the trade-off? If you know how these things work and you play in the arena of geopolitics, whether we made the first call or the America make the first call, they will be looking to bargain. And if your 3 months visa to your 5 years visa is one of the things that was used, then that becomes a benchmark. Then, of course, we have a good relationship with America. We have partnered in various projects, on various projects. So the visa could be one of them. Agua could be another one. And your energy sector could be another one. After all, you also take money from them to finance some aspect of your budget. So all these things are going to be discussed based on the fact that the President of America deals in transactions as part of his governance style. What you need to do in the interest of Ghana is to put your best interest forward. And best interest means that the nature of the agreement will favor you and to not be subchanged. The best practice will be that you put in the very requirements you need to grant opportunities for your people. The other best interest will be that you want to establish a relationship where whoever you are receiving are people whose backgrounds you know and are people who you are determined that you are willing to accept them. And to the extent that governance is on the open and democracy is on the open these days, whatever happens in America can be seen in Ghana, and it will be quicker to check whether this particular personality has landed here and what are the terms of reference and whether the MOU we have with them has been flouted. Then we can take it from there and move forward.
I see. Khalid, what is it that is not making the foreign affairs minister want to bring the agreement to Parliament? He says yes, transparency, that's his message in respect of the US's acceptance that Ghana will not accept the gentleman. He says that at all times government has been transparent with the people, etc. Why won't the Parliament look at this document so we all know what is in there, so we know what to expect? Is there any serious security matter in there that we don't have to know about, for which reason it's being kept away from us?
No, I don't want to believe that it's being kept away from us. And as Richard rightly spoke about, I mean, these things are not new, right? Within the fluid, blurry nature, especially these days, having a Trump White House, especially with the big brother attitude America plays within the geopolitical landscape in terms of trade tariffs, et cetera, et cetera. As you'd realize, prisoner exchange, deportees having to play a role in a third country or third party country in transit forms or integrated forms are all part of MOUs, frameworks, and what in diplomatic parlance they might refer to as readmission agreements, right? So this is not new. It happens all the time. And as Richard rightly put, and I can confirm authoritatively that these things are done whilst looking at the background of these people. This is an immigration case. And often than not, with someone that has been sojourning for a very long time abroad, only recent to be back home, I've met immigrants who have become illegal, just by sheer ignorance, by not knowing some regulations. It's not everyone that is illegal that is deemed criminal. So, there are people that really need this. There are people that were even born in the UK or in the US that do not know that we need to apply for certain documentation to regularize our stay whatsoever. So, there's a certain compassionate dimension to this that you have to look at when dealing with, the grand scheme of things, especially so with a Trump White House. So I do not want to say that anything has been put in secrecy. If anything has been put in secrecy, you would have realized that, a flight comes in, people get off the flight, they're put in transit, they either stay within the ECOWAS limited 91 day and they are being transported to their various countries. But no, the minister has been explicit. And I saw the minister even concede to say that, look, have more coming. That is the level of transparency we're talking about. I don't think Parliament is the only litmus test to transparency or the only microscope within which we can view some of these things from a transparent lens. To do this, as Richard rightly put, you have the foreign minister, that's the sector minister who plays a role. You have the attorney general, and as you know, anyone who knows the expertise of Dr. Ayine, you know that when it comes to international trade and when it comes to international relations issues, he's top on his job. And having such a person as attorney general, the chief lawyer or the chief advisor when it comes to legal matters to the president and the state in a Trump White House is very critical, where he's using, trade tariffs as a big stick to beat other nations or as a big bargaining chip. So dealing with Trump, one ought to be very strategic in because in Africa or within the African landscape, you'd realize that, Nigeria has played host to UK, US, European deportees. So within Africa, Ethiopia has played host to Saudi Arabian, Yemenis, and the US as well. Even within West Africa, Sierra Leone, Liberia have all played this, where logistics being deployed by the country sending them, right, to aid with the utmost or the onwards integration or transition to their countries of abode. You realize that all of the people that has been accepted are of West African origin. I mean, what has happened to ECOWAS? What has happened to our protocols? What has happened to integration? We are a host. So in diplomacy on statecraft, politics play a role, right? At the very moment where we have trade issues or the big trade stick being used as a bargain or a stick and carrot bargain by the Donald Trump administration or the Trump White House, we are at the same time hosting AfTA. So we headquarters the Africa Free Trade Area. So these are all signals of, compassion, signals of legality, signals of diplomacy, signals of geopolitics that are being played within a tactical manner, right, or enveloped by statecraft, other than to say, I'm refusing to go to Parliament. I mean, if Parliament feels that there ought to be some scrutiny to it and they call for it, I am pretty much sure that the Honorable Foreign Minister would avail himself to answer the needed questions. So none of this has been done in secrecy. Everyone knows what is happening. And as you would see, there has been a diplomatic host, or will I say a security host, that came out from the international news stating that they were bringing yet another one. And the Homeland Security has come to deny this, that's not it. There might have been an error somewhere. So in an era where new media is fast moving, the geopolitical lines are very blurred, dealing with this, one ought to be very prudent and tactical. And that's exactly what the government of the day is doing. Pre-screening of these people or these deportees is something government never compromised. In the grand scheme of things, if government is happy to say there were trade-offs, I'm sure that would be announced to the Ghanaian public to view to say, okay, well, this is it. But mind you, our quick nature in running commentary or sideline commentary to say that has been tied to visa regulations is neither here nor there. If you look at the visa regulatory issue, it did not affect only Ghana. It was a blanket thing that Trump did, just as with trade tariffs as well, right? Much as with DFID, not DFID, sorry, USAID, when he woke up one morning and decided that I was going to pull all of this off. It was not even, those who understand the White House politics or the White House politics would have noticed that it was not even targeted at Africa, right? It was an internal issue that they were dealing with the bureaucrats of USAID, if you read the political fault lines and the fallouts from these. So I think that, yes, we are subjected to make interpretations to happenings and coincidence of diplomatic events, but they may not be as we think it is. But the assurance to the good people of Ghana is that President Mahama and President Nana Jane Akufo-Addo will not endanger you, right? You have a very formidable Attorney General who is well versed in international trade and relations. You have your chief diplomat in the person of the Foreign Minister, Honorable Okujato, who has been ranking member and understand what he's doing. Remember, Salon, in all of these issues, they are not permanent enemies and friends when it comes to issues of geopolitics and international relations. Remember, right, a very harrowing example, though, that I would have to give, but for the appreciation of the discussion. When we had the Melkon disaster, it was the Israeli embassy that came to our aid. What is our relationship today? It's still what it is. But we still stood our ground to speak for the Palestinian people by even sending aid in local Ghanaian manufactured food items to them. But that hasn't strained our relationship with the Israeli people. So what it tells you is that being tactical and fluid in maneuvering your diplomatic fault lines in trying to achieve the purpose and essence of geopolitics and positioning your country right and formidable is very key. President Mahama was at the UN General Assembly. He spoke vehemently against the persecutions of the Palestinian people, but that hasn't strained our relationship. So this is again as being tactical, but calling for the right thing to be done. So yes, it is a fluid space, these things have happened over a longer period of time, that you would realize that it's not new to the international landscape. I remember people are trying to excavate issues of the Gitmo 2, trying to make comparisons to all of that. But the assurance to the good people of Ghana is that President John Dramani Mahama and his vice, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, would not put us in harm's way. They have assembled the right decision, they sought the right advice, an MOU, or based on an MOU, this was executed.
I see. Only that, people think that this whole MOU discussion is a way of, it's a backdoor way of going around Parliament. So Parliament, the people's representative, don't know the full extent of the agreement.
No, but Solom, I don't think that we're going around Parliament. But as you would know, Collins sits on the other side of Parliament. They've gone to sit on the Yoko's premises, asking for someone to be released, either that they were not going to go home, even though they went earlier than expected. But you would realize that if this was as people painted, the Afenyo Makin-led minority would have really called for this to be done. So I don't think that they have been a backdoor
but they've been calling for it to be done, actually. And he will make the call again, and he's made a call. I mean, they've asked that the agreement come to Parliament.
We know when he makes a hard call, don't you?
I see. All right. So, Colin, so you're not making the hard call there. But in any case, the decision, if there was a decision at all, it's been rescinded. Foreign Minister came up strong. The U.S. has responded that they are no longer bringing the gentleman. That should close the matter, shouldn't it?
So first of all, let me say that the minority members on the Foreign Affairs Committee have been very, very vociferous on this particular matter. Just this morning, the ranking member, Abu Jinapo, has posted on his Facebook page, still calling for the MOU to be brought to Parliament. And there's a reason for that. I have here the Hansard of Parliament, which is the record of Parliament. This was when the Gitmo 2 issue came up. Yeah. Now I want you to listen to what Okudzeto Ablakwa said. With your permission, let me read. Just some 3 minutes. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by the Honorable Chairman of the Committee on Foreign Affairs that this House ratifies the agreement between the government of Ghana and the government of the United States of America to continue to host the 2 former detainees of Guantanamo Bay who have been in this country since January 2016. This was when 2 of the detainees were brought in. Government then, the NDC government then, did not bring the MOU or the agreement to Parliament.
The Supreme Court.
So some citizens of Ghana went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court directed that it should come to Parliament for ratification. And this is the argument of Okudzeto. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, I must indicate that Ghana will certainly be joining the ranks of other countries who have spoken against the continuous existence of the Guantanamo Bay facility. We do know that Amnesty International continues to wage a global campaign against the detention of suspected terrorists and other persons at the Guantanamo Bay facility. Some of them have been there for more than 15 years without trial. Mr. Speaker, the need has arisen now for this House to ratify this agreement following the 22nd June 2017 decision of the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, and don't forget, that Supreme Court decision has not been reviewed, so it still stands. Mr. Speaker, there are a number of issues that arise from the judgment of the Supreme Court of Ghana, the apex court of the land. Mr. Speaker, it is interesting to note that the careful reading of the judgment would indicate that following a ruling by the Supreme Court on this matter on the 10th of May, which directed all parties, the defendant and the plaintiff, to submit the final case, the current government submitted the same line of argument that the previous government has submitted on this matter, and this is the catch. The judgment reveals, Mr. Speaker, that on page 14, that the Constitution of Ghana bears no distinction between executive and non-executive agreements. Mr. Speaker, this judgment now means that every note verbal and every memorandum of understanding that the government of Ghana enters into with any other foreign entity must come to Parliament. This is Okudzeto Ablakwa.
And this is a Hansard.
This is the Hansard of Parliament. He was on the floor of Parliament arguing that even not verbal should come to Parliament. Now he's telling us that MOU should not come to Parliament. What are you talking about? What is he talking about? And let me go on. This is the Hansard.
Oh, and when you finish, let me know the date.
Oh, I'll even give you a copy. I'll forward it to you. I'll give you a copy. You remember, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo entered into some agreements with Cote d'Ivoire on cocoa pricing. Listen to Okujeto. Mr. Speaker, just yesterday, while listening to the Honorable Minister for Finance deliver the 2017 mid-year review of the budget statement and economic policy, he indicated that there's a new agreement that President Akufo-Addo has entered into with his counterpart in Ivory Coast, where they are collaborating on how to prevent smuggling of cocoa and on. Mr. Speaker, this House has not seen the agreement, and there are a plethora of such agreements that would normally not come to Parliament for ratification. Mr. Speaker, now by virtue of this judgment, all those agreements, not verbal, a memorandum of understanding must come to Parliament for ratification. Oblaka. So where is this coming from? Where's all this? That now a government of Ghana can go into an agreement with the United States of America to accept deportees, and you say it shouldn't come to Parliament? Because an MOU, when you, the same Okudeta Ablaka, as ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee.
But that was advice of the Attorney General, he says.
Which Attorney General is talking about?
I mean, Dr. Ayini, obviously, because he said
So,
the Attorney
there's
General
a judgment of the Supreme Court. Salom, you're a lawyer.
Advised.
Salom, I say you're a lawyer. There's a judgment of the Supreme Court that even not verbals. Let's read the Constitution. Go to the Constitution, Article 70 something.
75.
The agreement should not even be written. Just verbal must come to Parliament. That is the judgment of the Supreme Court. And he, Okujeto, as part of his argument on the floor of Parliament, used that. So, as ranking member, all MOU should come to Parliament. As foreign minister, MOU shouldn't come to Parliament. Where from this kind of argument? And you are saying that what you are doing, you just want to bypass scrutiny. Because if that MOU had come to Parliament, we would have known that we are not accepting the guys on humanitarian grounds, as he sought to tell us.
But what do you think
His
may
first
be the
argument
consideration?
His first argument was that we are accepting them because they are West Africans. And that even in West Africa, the ECOWAS protocol allows for movement. Who told you that ECOWAS protocol allows for people handcuffed, put in a plane, and brought to your country? Is that part of the ECOWAS protocol? The ECOWAS protocol is talking about voluntary movement. So if I'm Ghanaian and I want to go to Nigeria, fine, ECOWAS protocol allows me. But if I'm Ghanaian and you handcuff me, put me in a plane from Ghana and move me to Nigeria, you say ECOWAS protocol. That cannot be. And he knows that what he's saying is not what it is. So now, government of Ghana can go to any other country, sign an MOU that will affect the Ghanaian people. Today, we are being told that they are bringing some criminals. Bring the documents.
The criminal is, the so-called criminal is no more coming. I'm
saying bring the documents. Let's all of us look at the documents. Just as he argued on Guantanamo Bay. For him, he even went as far to say that even not verbals. And this is the answer of Parliament. So what has changed? That suddenly MOU shouldn't come to Parliament. And he said on the advice of Ayene, I know Dr. Ayene. You know Dr. Ayene. Everybody knows his understanding of the law. If Dr. Ayene gave this advice to the Attorney General and government, I will be shocked on the basis of the judgment of the Supreme Court. I will be shocked. I will be totally surprised. Because the court judgment, the Supreme Court judgment, is still, nobody has reviewed, nobody has challenged it. And I'm saying my good brother Okujeto used that same argument on the floor of Parliament.
I see. I mean, Richard. I mean, this is the
so I'm tell you, you're going to come to me.
No, I'll come to you. I'm doing it in a certain way. Richard, I mean, this is the document from Parliament. I wanted a date though.
I'll send it to you.
You know, but this is what it is.
This was during the debate on the floor. This was
what you're thinking.
The chairman had moved a motion for the agreement to be ratified after the court's judgment. This is Okudeto's argument. that even he's moving from even MOUs to notes verbals. He should come to Parliament. What is this West Africa argument, that humanitarian ground? Later when he was asked, he said, oh, now we get to know that it's because of the visa restrictions.
That judgment being referred to
bring the document to Parliament for scrutiny.
Is the Mrs. Margaret Bamfo and Henry Nana Boakye versus Attorney General, Minister of Interior judgment delivered by Sophia Kufu, CJ, on the 22nd of June, 2017. If you recall, when the Gitmo 2 were brought to Ghana, and there was, I think, a press program with the president, that matter came up strongly, where the president said, as a father, you know, young people arrested from their countries, taken to some other place, Guantanamo Bay, you know, he felt the empathy, and that was what, amongst other things, contributed to Ghana's agreement to bring them to Ghana. So Henry Nana Boakye and one Margaret Bamfo took the matter to court, and it took quite a bit of time for the court to look at the matter. When the decision came, I mean, government had changed hands in June 2017, and the court was of the opinion that it was an international agreement, and so consistent with Article 75, the court or the executive had to take it to Parliament for ratification. So that's what it is, and so this Okudzeto saying was just an MOU. Of course, his own comment in the Hansard, his own comment may not be law, but you know, the law, which is the judgment, is quite obvious on that. Richie Kumado,
The date was 1st of August 2017.
1st August 2017, okay. So that was soon after the judgment. Judgment was on 22nd June 2017. So, Richard, I mean, this is the law, this is the comment, this is Hansard, and this is the reality of today. Your thoughts again? Were there things, I don't know if you know the agreement once again, but this is the reality. You know, any thoughts on this?
No, what I think is that to the extent that is generating a public agitation, the Parliament has a way of assessing themselves and assessing their members. The Attorney General is an MP, the Foreign Minister is an MP, the Minister of Interior is an MP, and they have various committees that deals with issues that borders on specific areas. It will be important that my uncle Collins in the studio, they will use one of their platforms to ask questions on the floor of the House for the respective ministers to come and answer, or they will call them to the committee so that it will be dealt with at the committee level. But if you look at our foreign policy that says that we are friends of all and enemies of none, it guides us in many of the public agreements we sign with our international parties. And I would be surprised if the Attorney General did not add a voice to this particular agreement before it was reached with the US. So since we are dealing with Parliament and they are masters of their own rules, I'll just leave it to that regard.
Okay. All right. Khalid, what's your thoughts or response to what that policy said?
You know me, I mean, we can always rake back to history to bring the voices of people as a way of fact-checking. But Salam, as you would know, law is static and international relations and geopolitics is fluid. Right. I mean, this was a legal decision that was taken, much as is binding. But if you look at the rapid Ripple, Rumble-style deportation that Trump is having in the US, right, where you even have some Canadians being affected by this. Honorable Collins, should there be not a humanitarian eye and ear to this? Not everyone in handcuffs is a criminal. And as I rightly indicated to you, some people, by just sheer ignorance, could fall borderline below the immigration threshold and be a victim of this. So I think that is the lens to which we have to look at this. The times are not the same, right? And it is not like they are bringing in criminals from a war-torn area. I'm not saying, but that notwithstanding, there have been almost effective screening of who comes into Ghanaian soil. So for me, I think that juxtaposing it with the law and who would have thought that there would be a Donald Trump White House in the first place? Again, having had a Donald Trump White House, who would have thought he would unilaterally, wake up and take such decisions? Rambo style, repo, rapid, right? Under such fluid conditions, how much time did we have to look at some of these issues? So I'm sure there's a clear justification and wisdom to the execution of this said MOU, which was done prudently. If there's anything wrong with it, as Richard rightly indicated, from a professional lens, let's invite the ministers involved. We could invite the Minister of Interior. Luckily, he's a member of Parliament. We could invite the Minister of Foreign Affairs, luckily, who is a member of Parliament. We could invite the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, again, luckily, who is a member of Parliament. And you can have that parliamentary discourse and actually unearthing what you think was hidden. I don't think there was anything. If it was hidden in the first place, I don't think we'll be having this rapid media discussion over it. So yes, a lot has happened, and I think that we have to look at it from, what is happening currently within the deportation frame as far as the Donald Trump White House is concerned, right? Juxtaposing it to how much of an emergency this is within the geopolitical and international relations or diplomatic landscape, bearing in or factoring in the fact that, again, we are within an ECOWAS emblem. I think that anyone looking at it from this lens, and again, let me remind my very good friend, Honorable Collins, that, not everyone in handcuffs is dangerous or is a criminal. There are a lot of factors that go into the determination of the illegality or otherwise of an immigrant being illegal. So I think that let's begin to look at this from a compassionate and international relations lens, and also bearing or factoring in or cognizant of the fact that these are ECOWAS citizens, where we also have ECOWAS protocols. We're not passing ourselves as, international relations or security experts, but I'm sure Richard is in his own right. But you look at this from that lens of governance. If we were to say, okay, this MOU ought to be executed under or within the microscopic lens of Parliament, where would it take us? Right. So observe it, scrutinize it. If there's anything you think that was done untoward, question the relevant ministers involved in the act, and then I'm sure answers will be provided. The John Mahama administration and the John Mahama and Professor Nana Foucault administration, as you see, has a pinnacle of transparency and accountability. They would avail themselves, or the various ministries or respectful ministers or agencies involved in this would be. I'm not sure, or I'm pretty much sure that this decision was not taken lightly, as you would see.
Very well. In concluding, let me just tell you what Article 75 says. It says the president may execute or cause to be executed treaties, agreements, or conventions in the name of Ghana. 2, a treaty, agreement, or convention executed by or under the authority of the president shall be subject to ratification by A, Act of Parliament, or B, a resolution of Parliament supported by the votes of more than one half of all members of Parliament. So this is the interpretation put on this by Sofa Akufu, who authored the lead judgment, or the majority view, or the judgment itself. It says the language of Article 75 is perfectly clear. The article forms part of the set of provisions governing the role of the executive arm of government in Ghana's international relations. The scope of the article deals with treaties in general, cross-reference side notes, and the body of the text makes reference to treaties, agreements, and conventions. It is also clear that the instruments referred to relate to Ghana's international relations with other countries or groups of countries, and the article requires that such instruments must be ratified by Parliament. The Constitution makes no mention of any formal distinctions that are dependent on the formality with which such an instrument is formatted or brought into being. From the aforementioned principles of constitutional interpretation in Ghana, there is no doubt that whereby the various forms of documentation, the government of Ghana binds the Republic of Ghana to certain obligations in relation to another country or group of countries, an international agreement comes into existence. So taking into account the substance of Exhibit A, which is the agreement in that Gitmo 2 matter, we are in no doubt that despite the form in which it has been drafted and the text couched, it is intended to create an obligation on the part of Ghana to the USA, whereby inter alia, Ghana binds herself to, quote, receive and resettle these two persons and assure that, quote, for the past 2 years, for at least 2 years or longer, if warranted by circumstances, these persons are kept under such conditions that is monitored and surveilled, as would accord with security assurances in this agreement to be implemented. So, I mean, that's what it is. That's the Constitution. That's an interpretation by the learned former Chief Justices.
To conclude, as I rightly indicated, that the law is static, but international relations is fluid. With the reading and interpretation of such a law that you're bringing out, much as I feel that it needs to be challenged, would we not have a diplomatic stalemate if all of these MOUs, note verbal, etc., or within the diplomatic lines, ought to go to Parliament for ratification? Would we not have, right, or would we not stall the diplomatic grinding wheel if this happens? Where would we be, or where would our international relations be? Or when we even have emergencies of our own citizens abroad that needs certain agent actions to be taken, how would it be? So I think this judgment is a bit faulty, to humbly state. It ought to be relooked at, because I cannot imagine a foreign minister functioning in such a manner that you would have to at every point go to Parliament for ratification of such, with MOUs, with Hansards, with note verbal, etc., etc. We really need to. But mind you also, this law came into force, or probably this judgment was under the lens of the Gitmo 2. I think that there's a clear distinction between what is happening within the Gitmo 2, right, in terms of the Guantanamo Bay deportees, compared to West African nationals, especially so with ECOWAS or ECOWAS protocols being with, in the equation or in the mix of things. So the cocktail of what is happening within this current, transit or, whatever deportation we may call it, compared to the Gitmo 2, the context is different and the cocktail is different. So I think that we ought to really look at this and look at it from a critical lens within the diplomatic spectrum to really understand what we're doing by bringing in this judgment in, or what the judgment sought to do. Because I saw references as you were reading verbatim with reference to talk about their 2-year duration whatsoever, which is diametrically opposed to what we are dealing with here. So I think that there ought to be some variations and the sort of emergency with which it came here. Mind you, again, the context.
But is a principle we look at in law, because no two cases are the same.
I agree.
So the principle is what we look at, and I think the principles are on all force with this.
Yeah. I'm not fighting the principle.
No problem.
Someone needs to also challenge a review of it, right? And let's see where it takes us.
Well,
this is something that really I think that it'll be an interesting case.
I wanted to say that.
Okay.
So I wanted to say that whether the agreement or the MOU goes to Parliament or not, there are two key things you are looking at. You are looking at the backgrounds of the two people, the circumstances or the background of the Gitmo 2, and that of those who are coming now. And that is to say that when the security risk assessment is done, they do it in line with national sovereignty guarantees, then public safety and security assurances. So whether it goes to Parliament or not, once they can determine that the backgrounds are different and they do not pose any major danger to our public safety, then the agency
but Richard,
there.
So
But
what is the basis of their coming? It's an agreement or some meeting of minds. Call it MOU, call it an agreement, call it a no verbal. The law is saying that once there's some obligation, you've committed Ghana to.
Is that in meeting the requirement for parliamentary governance, which Parliament, the involvement of Parliament in many of the things you read is true, that aspect will need to be held. They have to be held accountable, and that is why MP Collins and co are calling for Minister Okujetu and co to come to Parliament. But in dealing with the issues involved, it's important to exercise or to stress the point that the background of the Gitmo 2 will be compared to the background of the people coming, in line with national sovereignty, public safety, and security assurances. And I want to draw that distinction. So that is the point I'm making. I'm not talking about whether it should go to Parliament or it shouldn't go to Parliament. But the point I'm making is that whether it goes to Parliament or not, they'll look at the differences between what happened to us in relation to the Gitmo 2 and the nature of the agreement we are having now in relation to the background of the people coming.
Very well. Nice one. Great. Let's do the last few minutes to deal with some quick MPP politics. I mean, they did a balloting. The party did. Oh, no, you have something small to say. Okay, just do that quickly.
I'm trying to understand what my very good brothers are talking about on this particular issue. You read the judgment. This issue about the background, the security background. Or,
I thought I dealt with that.
no, please.
Yeah, Uncle Collins, hold them. Let them come to Parliament. Let them come to the
my brother.
and deal with it.
The issue is very simple. When the government of Ghana goes into any agreement with a foreign entity, that puts some obligations on us. You have to come to Parliament for ratification. That's the law.
Until it changes.
Until it changes. Until you challenge the verdict of the Supreme Court, that is the law. And Okucheto himself, and I've read the Hansard here, quoting copiously from the same judgment to buttress his point, and said that even this judgment means that not verbals should come to Parliament. He was challenging the Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, the president, for going into an agreement with Cote d'Ivoire to fix the cocoa prices, and said that agreement should come to Parliament. Then as ranking member.
Very well.
Now you assume the position of foreign minister. You go to America, have the agreement with America, bring detainees from America to Ghana. You say you shouldn't come to Parliament. I don't understand where this argument is coming from.
Very well.
And I like it when you read the judgment from Sophia Akufo. That is the law. I've heard Khalid that he thinks that the judge erred. Okay, you should challenge the Supreme Court. Until that is challenged.
This is done. So what can happen is, if a similar matter goes, the court may decide.
This one is not done.
No, what I mean is the court may decide to vary its position or depart from it or distinguish the judgment and
we do have a problem.
Yeah, so yes.
What is currently in position?
So this is the law.
This is the law.
No matter, Khalid, so to quote,
no matter the explanation.
To quote a famous person, no matter what you say, the law is the law.
Collins, my good friend. Yeah, the law is the law. And what I'm telling my good friend Collins.
Politicians, be careful using the word the law is the law. When they use it against
Khalid, my point is that. Khalid, my point is that. My point is that. My point is that the Honorable Minister's press conference.
Wait, let's hear Khalid. Yes.
Yeah, my point is that based on this ruling, would we not have a diplomatic stalemate?
So that is a legitimate point you can make. But
my point.
In as far as it is this is concerned, this is the law. Okay, so you could make these points maybe to the court someday, and the court, based on the reasoning or the strength of your argument, may come up with the reasoning.
And I think that someone should do that.
But you are that somebody, Khalid.
No, well, I hold a public office, and I think that doing that may hold a certain bias. But if I were independent of myself, then that would maybe Richard as an independent think tank who is not a politician. But
I think somebody needs to go to court. I think somebody needs to go to court. Yeah.
All right, that's fine. So somebody needs to go to court. That's okay. I want to discuss this briefly. So Collins, you guys did balloting yesterday for your presidential primaries. Kadunde Japan was number 1, number 3 for Alan, and then number 5 for Kwabena Ejipon. But there's this thing about the development fee, which is 4 million Ghana cedis. We understand Kwabena Ejipon hasn't paid, and people were thinking that because he's not paid, he will be disqualified, but he wasn't disqualified. Now, this is my point. Professor Okwe, who obviously is a colossus when it comes to the politics of this country, both as an academic, a practitioner, and even a former Speaker of Parliament, says that he thought that was suicidal. It was a suicidal pathway and undermines the foundation of democracy. His point is that it becomes an auction. Election becomes an auction, warning that the political party is not for sale. What's your general thoughts on this? Of course, we must support the political parties as members, but where you set it as a prerequisite, that is what Okwe is saying is quite problematic.
I paid development fee when I was filing my nomination.
But the quantum?
So if we want to have discussion about the quantum, we can have that discussion. But the idea of paying development fee is nothing new.
But is it right?
I'm coming. I'm saying, Mr. Okwe, he was a member of Parliament for how many terms?
So he also paid.
He paid development fee. He paid.
No, but now he's reflecting. You know, if you're an
I'm
old man, you go and sit in the village or somewhere under a tree.
If the
and
question is
reflect.
about the quantum, we can have a discussion.
Okay.
But the idea of paying development fee has been with the party all along. Mr. Michael Quay, Prof, he paid development fee. Me, I pay development fee. So if it's about the amount, we can have a discussion. Personally, I think 4 million is just too much. But I've been hearing all the candidates, Baumia, Kennedy Japan, and all those people. Oh, during the national conference, we gave 2 million. During the national conference, Baumia said he gave 7 million. One person said he gave 4 million. Brian says he gave 3 million. If you've been able to give 3 million and 4 million for national conference, you should be able to pay 4 million for presidential admission. All the candidates, they've been touting that as part of their contribution to the party. Mr. Brian has been saying that he has supported the party, and rightly so. He's right. He has supported the party. Dr. Baumia said he has been supporting the party on the quiet. He said he gave some 3 million here, 2 million here. Honorable Kennedy Japan always says it, that he supports the grassroots. So if all these people openly are saying they support the political party that they belong to, why are you worried about development fee?
But that's at will, voluntarily. But to say
so
that
you are
to
prepared
pay,
to give money voluntarily to the party, 7 million for
that's
national
if I
conference. But when the party tells you that bring 4 million to be president, you say no.
It creates or paints a picture. As
And when you were sending that 4 million voluntarily, you didn't paint any picture.
No, but you are helping this thing. Anyway, so that's his point, really.
My point is that development fee has been with us since we started elections within the party. Professor Michael Quay paid development fee. Me, I pay development fee. If the issue is about the quantum, we can have a discussion with it. For me personally, I think 4 million is just too much. It's a little bit on the high. Not everybody will be able to afford 4 million. But the idea of paying development fee is nothing new.
But he describes this as a bubonic plague.
I'm saying when he was paying his, was it bubonic or was it, what the word he used?
Bubonic. He said the so-called 4 million so-called development fee is a bubonic plague. Monocracy is not democracy. And a political party must not be seen to be pursuing that pathway. Prof. Quay cautioned in an interview with the Daily Graphic.
I'm saying
that he paid.
Professor Michael Quay
Paid.
When he was paying development fee, was it what's the word?
Bubonic plague.
Was it bubonic or?
And the definition for bubonic plague is a severe bacterial infection caused by Yersinia pestis, characterized by fever, headache, chills, weakness, and painful swollen lymph nodes called bubbles. On that note, on that bubonic plague note, no, Khalid. This is a house matter.
This is a house matter.
This is a house matter, Khalid.
Khalid, don't comment. This is a house matter.
It has something to do with political party.
Oh, Khalid, this is a house matter.
Khalid, I'll give you 30 seconds. I'll give you 30 seconds. I mean, in fairness, I'll give you 30 seconds.
This tied to, you see, Kobna and Japan. All of them, as my good friend Collins indicated, have been touting about how much they contribute. Kobna is not. And he's the one struggling to pay. So let's be fair to him within this context. In any case, this is where it ties into political party funding. I don't think it is the development fee that's an issue. It's a quantum, right, of development fee. I mean, at the MP level, most of us who try to be MPs have contributed to all of this whatsoever before you file your nominations, et cetera, et cetera. But the question is, where do you expect people to get 4 million to pay? Right. So
money
now
laundering. Money laundering.
Yes,
Money laundering.
So that's a security man. That's a security man also saying. All right. So it means that it's cause for some discussion.
Funding of political parties. So funding of political parties should become an integral part of our body politic. Or maybe if you want to feel that you want your candidates to be able to raise funds, you give them a threshold of funds to raise or to galvanize. When they're able to do that in the public square where there is accountability and transparency, then you can okay them to run. But to say they should vomit 4 million Ghana cedis within this short, fine. It's a span of time.
But Khalid, will you, Khalid? So obviously your problem is about the quantum, but you're opposed to the idea of development fee.
Yes, I'm opposed to the idea of development fee.
No matter the quantum.
I've paid it before. But I'm opposed to it. I call for political party funding right within. So this is where I think that we should be calling for how much a candidate should spend for an election or a primary, where resource comes from, and limitation.
Great.
This is where we need to have that discussion.
Great. The lawyer says precedence is an important guideline in all matters to avoid double speak. Fear of political statement is not an excuse. That's Chris Akume again. This is how we conclude today's edition of the program. We've been live, and my guest, Collins Adumako Mensah, Honorable, Member of Parliament for Ifija Kwabre North, and then former Deputy Minister for Energy, Professor Sharif Mahmoud Khalid, Economic Advisor, Office of the Vice President, Richard Kumado, Security Consultant. My name is Salam Aduno. Have a good afternoon.